Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mica Pointer, and I am a graduate employee in the costume shop at the University of Oregon. And I am going to be talking with you today about the backstitch. Now, the backstitch is the strongest of the hand stitches, and it's used in place of when you don't have a sewing machine available, just for doing straight stitching and hems. So the materials you're going to need for this project are a needle, single threaded with just your regular cotton thread. And you are going to need both of your 3 by 6 inch flannel swatches. These I have already marked for a 1/2 inch seam allowance on both sides of the fabric and pinned together so that it holds it in place and our stitches all fall on the right sides. A brief note before we get going any further is that I am left-handed, which is great for any of you out there who are already left-handed, but for any of you who are right-handed, I'll try to be conscientious of flipping things around and making notes like, hey, this is how you're going to do it if you're right-handed, or just bear in mind that the technique will stay the same, whether you're left-handed or right-handed. What's going to change is basically how you're holding the project or where you're going to be starting on it. For example, because I stitch with my left hand, I have a tendency to hold my project with my right hand, with the rest of the bulk of whatever it is going out to my left. For people who stitch right-handed, of course, naturally, most likely it's going to be the opposite situation. Either way, whatever is most comfortable for you. And to get started talking about the technique of this, probably the best way to describe it is 1 step back, 2 steps forward. Because if I can use a visual aid right now, imagining that you're going to be looking at this project in profile, so edgewise like that. Here's the fabric right there, if we can imagine it. You're going to be starting, bringing the thread down, so your knot's going to be here, shall we say, going through the fabric, piercing, pulling that through, going down and taking 1 step back and coming up. If you see that, and then you're going to take 2 steps forward. So you're going to go past where you first went down for the knot, and then you're going to go into the fabric going down, 1 step back to where you had gone down originally, and coming up, taking 2 steps forward, going down, 1 step back, coming up, 2 steps forward, going down, 1 step back, going up, and so on and so forth on down to the end of the project. And what makes the backstitch so strong is that it creates this loop on itself, so that if there's any like tension on the project, the loops will want to pinch in on itself, as opposed to just a regular straight running stitch, which is just going to want to pull out and have nothing kind of locking it into place. Now, how this stitch is going to look on the top side of the fabric, is different from how it's going to look here on the bottom side of the fabric, because on the bottom, because it's just these single stitches that are all going to be in line with each other, it's going to look just how it does coming out of a regular sewing machine. Each of those nice, even, straight, in line with each other. Whereas up here, because there's that overlap with each other, they're going to be coming in starting halfway from the other stitches. And this will kind of look different depending on how the threads fall. I think in embroidery, this is the stem stitch, if I'm thinking of it, or which, if it gets going just the right way. It has this really interesting, almost like twisty rope kind of look, but that's in like manipulating how it comes out, how it goes into the fabric, and that's a little bit more decorative than kind of the more utilitarian stuff we're going for right here. But the most important things to keep in mind is that the stitches are even in length and that they are in line with where we had marked for our stitch line. So you're going to be checking that once you put your needle in, turning it around, making sure that the point of the needle is coming up on the stitch line before you go and pull it all the way through. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense enough to you. Remember, our knot's going to be right over here. 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, etc., etc. So here we go. We're going to start with my thread. I already double knotted it, leaving just a few inches for the tail up here coming out of the eye of the needle. So I'm doing it right now lefty style, so holding the needle in my left hand, holding project with my right hand. The seam allowance is going to be towards the right, the rest of the project, whatever it may be, a shirt, a blanket, whatever it is, going out to the left. I am going to start by putting it in, flipping, making sure that it's in line. Awesome. Pulling it out. And we're going to take that 1 step back. We're going to go in on the stitch line, making sure it's coming out on the stitch line. I think that was a little wonky. There we go. That looks a little better. Coming up. Yeah, that might have been a little bit wide, but it should be good for the moment. And now we're going to take our 1 step forward, 2 step forward, going in on the stitch line, checking, making sure it's coming out on the stitch line, pulling it taut, and taking our 1 step back. So there again, we're going to be going in where that stitch had come out. So it's going to be in the middle of that big long stitch, pulling it taut. See, nice and in line with each other. And then we're going to be taking 1 step forward, 2 step forward, going in. 1 step back, going out. See, we're coming up in the middle. And just continuing right straight on down the line. 2 steps forward, going in. That was a little wonky. I'm going to fix that just to make sure it's right in line. Okay. Coming out. 1 step back. Coming out. There you go. So hopefully you can see it, maybe sort of kind of. They're overlapping by half on each other, whereas everything on this side is just right straight in line. And the narrower you make your stitches, the more secure and the more tighter that seam is going to be. Obviously, the wider the stitches are, the more give they're going to have as you start putting tension on it. So just making them nice and narrow, nice and close to each other. So hopefully that makes sense for lefty style of doing it. I'm going to tie off and then challenge myself, see if I can do it right-handed. Whoa, boy, we'll see how this goes. So for tying it off, I'm just going to take a little itty-bitty bite of fabric and pull it just enough so that a loop is created. Going through the loop once, going through the loop twice, loop-de-doop, pull it taut, and we have our knot. Awesome. Splendiferous. Okay. Tie our knot again. Some people do that fancy tricksy thing where they wrap it around their finger and just roll it off, pull it into a nice neat little knot. I can never make that work, so I just do it the boring, labor-intensive way that I know how, which is just make the loop, fold it through, and pull taut. I'm going to do that twice. Make the loop, flip it through, and pull taut, being careful that the knot is landing in the same places where I made the previous knot. Okay. So, here we go. You can do this, Mica. You can do this. Yes. So, going in, making sure, oh, that wasn't in line, so I'm gonna fix that. Fortunately, flannel likes to kind of stick to itself a little bit, so it's forgiving in that respect, but it makes it a little difficult if you're making corrections on the fly. I'm going to pull it through, snagging like that, take one step back, put it in, making sure it's coming out, yep, on the line. Put it in, one step forward, two step forward, putting it down, making sure my thread isn't catching on any of the pins. Okay, so that was our two steps forward. We're going to take our one step back, putting it in. That's coming up right where the knot was, pulling it taut. Two steps forward, 1, 2, putting it in right on the stitch line. That doesn't look like it was quite in line, so I'm going to try that again. Okay, and that shifted on me a little bit, just making sure. Okay, right there. Pulling taut. Do our one step back. Wait a minute, I'm supposed to be doing this right-handed, aren't I? Oh no, what have I done? But all the same, the technique, one step back, two steps forward, is the same no matter which hand you hold it in, or whether you're working from top to bottom or bottom to top. And sometimes it likes to catch on different things. So, yes. That's a little wonky because I'm not right-handed, but either way, yep, you're just going to keep doing that all the way straight on down. And that is the back stitch. If you have any questions, if this wasn't making sense, feel free to shoot me or Jeanette a message asking for clarification. My email should be on the UO website under grad students. And I hope this all goes well for you. Thank you for sitting through this, and happy stitching.